Coming up on FSU Headlines, treating childhood ADHD without medication.
Plus, how the FAMU-FSU College of Engineering is helping advance stroke research.
And Florida State University libraries go nationwide. Stay tuned for these stories and more. FSU Headlines starts now. Hello and welcome to another edition of FSU Headlines, coming to you from the beautiful campus of Florida State University here in Tallahassee. I'm Dennis Schnitker.
And I'm Seshmi Hayes. Our top story, treating ADHD without medication. That could be an exciting new option for parents with children diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We sat down with the Florida State professor who's behind this exciting new research.
There's that sweet spot, what the serious game folks call flow state, where it's just hard enough to really be a challenge, but not so hard where they can't do it and will quit.
Florida State University Professor Michael Koffler is at the forefront of ADHD research.
I've spent about the last 15 years studying ADHD to try and figure out the why. So we know that kids with ADHD have attention problems, and we know that many of them are hyperactive or impulsive, but we're still trying to figure out why. And my research time and time again has come back to brain abilities called executive functions, which are really these abilities kind of up here in the frontal cortex of the brain that help us to guide our behavior and to control our impulses. And so what we've done is we've developed some interventions to try and improve those abilities. The idea being that as those executive functions improve, we should see ADHD symptoms be reduced.
Traditional ADHD treatments include psychostimulant medications like Adderall and Ritalin, which are currently regarded as the best treatments for ADHD. And while effective, some parents and children can encounter downsides with that kind of heavy medication.
Currently, the most effective treatments for ADHD are medication and then behavioral interventions, with medication tending to be the most effective option. Medication works very well for most kids with ADHD on the days they take it. But if you skip a day, you don't get any benefits that day. So both our behavioral interventions and our medications work well while we're doing them, but none of them have what we call generalizability, meaning that as soon as you stop them, they stop working.
Instead, Professor Koffler is looking to target the underlying reasons why kids have ADHD, with the idea that hopefully they can improve on behavioral abilities and see long-term gains beyond active treatment.
We've developed a new treatment called Central Executive Training. And so this is a series of training exercises designed to look like video games. The games adapt to the children's ability level, so as their abilities increase, the games get more difficult, with the idea being, like exercise, you start to lift heavier weights the stronger you get. Preliminary results are very promising. So we compared it to behavioral management training or parent training, which is currently the best non-medication option that we have for ADHD. And we found that it worked just as well as parent training for reducing ADHD symptoms according to Parent Report. But then we found it worked better than parent training in terms of improving the executive functions we were trying to train and in terms of reducing hyperactivity when we measure it objectively. So to really objectively measure the ADHD symptoms, we had kids wearing what are called actigraphs, which are basically really expensive Fitbits that measure how much these kids are moving 16 times per second. And when we looked objectively, we found that the kids who were treated with central executive training showed much larger reductions in hyperactivity than the kids whose parents went through the parent training course.
In support of these efforts, the National Institutes of Health have awarded Koffler $2 million to fund a new clinical trial to test the effectiveness of his non-medication treatments for ADHD on a broader scale.
So we'll be working with about 250 local families over the next 4 or 5 years to really be able to see whether this is working as well as we think it is.
And Koffler says they're excited as this new treatment could be just what's needed as they take these important next steps.
If you'd like more information on the study, check out our news site at news.fsu.edu. In our next headline, we head to the tropics where a Florida State University researcher has made a surprising discovery. Assistant Professor of Geography Stephanie Powell poured over 28 years of data to reveal a surprising relationship between surging atmospheric carbon dioxide and flower blooms. In a study published in the journal Global Change Biology, Powell and her colleagues found that in the rich tropical forests of Panama's Barro, Colorado Island, increasing rates of carbon dioxide have produced a multi-decade increase in overall flower production.
It is exciting, but I think as a scientist, we never feel like we've found the answer. So it's always a work in progress. And every time we publish a study, there's usually some really interesting result, but it just opens up 10, 20 more questions. And so that's actually the more exciting part, I think. Obviously, publishing is great to communicate your research to the people who are interested in it. But as a researcher, I think what's more exciting is all the follow-up questions that you then want to, then you start thinking about and that gets your mind going.
And across campus, a collaboration between a professor at the FSU College of Medicine and a professor at the FAMU-FSU College of Engineering is producing some promising results that could take their research to the marketplace.
FSU Headlines reporter Mark Vaughn shows us how FSU helps bridge the gap.
On the garden level of Florida State University's College of Medicine Research Building, you can find Professor of Biomedical Science and researcher Judy Delp.
I have a big interest in knowing how regular exercise retards aging effects in the microcirculation.
On many occasions, she spends her time with colleagues like FAMU-FSU College of Engineering adjunct professor Emily Pritchard. They're working on a new medical device to help patients with peripheral arterial disease.
So peripheral artery disease is atherosclerosis in the arteries of the legs. And what that means is you have blockage in arteries of the legs, and those blockages limit flow to the muscles in your legs. And so people that have peripheral artery disease, depending on the severity of it, they may only experience symptoms intermittently, but many of them have very predictable pain that occurs when they walk because their muscles are not getting enough blood flow while they're walking.
Professor Delp became interested in this disease that affects more than 200 million people worldwide when a postdoctoral student of hers brought up the idea of possible interventions to treat the disease. And that's where the idea for a therapeutic splint took shape.
Where we actually put a splint on and stretch their leg and stretch the muscles in their legs. We have good evidence that that's actually improving blood flow. So we are really hoping, one, that we'll just improve the overall condition of the limbs of these patients, but also that we might be able to get them to a point where they experience less pain while they're walking, and therefore they can maybe become more actively involved in an exercise program.
The splint has shown a lot of promise, but now it's time to move the research and testing forward, says Emily Pritchard, who's handling the engineering aspect of this project.
Dr. Delp had a small clinical study, and we are now moving that into hopefully a larger clinical design, and the GAP Award has enabled us to make a prototype that we are able to use in these larger studies. So we'd like to monitor better what's happening. We are very excited to see the effects that Judy's demonstrated in the early studies, and now by understanding better what's going on, we can help optimize this for patients in the future.
As you can imagine, taking basic research and propelling it to the marketplace requires funding.
So what we do with the GAP program is we provide resources to help with that transition. It's not enough to go to a venture capitalist and hand them your most recent scientific paper and say, hey, isn't this great? You really have to do some of the preliminary work, some of the preliminary experiments to basically fill that gap, and that's where the term comes from, between the science and everyone being able to see that there's an application.
And that's where Florida State's GAP program plays a key role. Delp is truly grateful for the GAP program's role in helping to move this project into possible production.
We're really hoping to take it beyond what we think of as a basic insight into why this might be helping people and into really tailoring it to make it as efficacious as it really can be. So I'm excited to see whether it's really going to move into the realm of helping a lot of people.
For FSU Headlines, I'm Mark Vaughn.
Coming up next, the FSU library system goes nationwide.
Florida State University Libraries is taking a lead in that. We're providing infrastructure staffing, support to get the Sunshine State Digital Network up and running.
Big news for the Stroge. Stay tuned. Florida State Headlines continues in a moment.
What does preeminence look like?
Moonlight, Best Picture.
Florida State University.
When you buy a Florida State University license plate,
you're not just showing your school spirit.
You're supporting students like us.
In the lab,
in the classroom,
and in the library.
Putting this tag on your vehicle helps Florida State students achieve their dreams. So show your pride. Purchase an FSU license plate today.
Welcome to FSU Headlines. I'm Seshmi Hayes.
And I'm Dennis Schnitker. National experts on human trafficking came to Florida State in February to discuss ways to combat this modern-day slavery affecting every state in the country.
FSU Headlines reporter Cara Irby has more from the two-day conference hosted by the FSU Center for the Advancement of Human Rights.
FSU Center for the Advancement of Human Rights has been at the forefront of major human rights issues since it was established in 2000.
It's my privilege to welcome those of you that are with us here live here at Florida State University. Also those of you that are joining us electronically, remotely, around the country and around the world for a two-day look at evolving promising practices in the U.S. anti-trafficking field.
The center kicked off this month with a two-day conference bringing people who've emerged as leaders in the U.S. anti-trafficking community to Florida State.
We're hoping that there is going to be a lot more awareness. We're hoping that we have better bills to help our victims. We're hoping that the community realizes that this can happen anywhere.
A wide-ranging audience of state agency workers, law enforcement personnel, faculty, students, and community members heard from experts like Louis Sidabaka, who was the first attorney to prosecute a human trafficking case in Florida in 1998.
We have to try to knit together those relationships so that one case going sideways or one case where people disagree doesn't break the entire thing. And that's the multidisciplinary approach. You have to trust.
He, like many others, encouraged stakeholders in the anti-trafficking arena to have a victim-centered approach and work together, with no pride of ownership in combating the issue. The multidisciplinary nature of combating human trafficking was something FSU student Joanny Gonzalez learned more about during her time at the conference.
It made me realize, there's a lot more players in human trafficking than I really thought were involved. It's not just criminology people, it's people in social work, and it's people in all different levels and all different experiences. And I think it brings a different idea of everything that's going on.
The conference also included insight from prominent FSU graduates who have been working in the anti-trafficking field. They were featured in a PSA about their efforts that was shown to conference attendees.
These victims are not your typical victims, and they're often the victims that people forget about. We all know that no kindergartner says that I want to be a prostitute when I grow up.
The PSA, featuring University President John Thrasher and others, will help those who see it have a better understanding of the major human rights violation that is human trafficking, and what Florida State and its alumni are doing to be champions for change in the United States and abroad. For FSU Headlines, I'm Cara Irby.
Every year, lawmakers from across the Sunshine State convene in Tallahassee for the 60-day legislative session. And every year, one of those 60 is FSU Day at the Capitol, the annual showcase of all things Florida State University. Take a look.
Good afternoon, Seminoles. I say this every year because it's true. It's a great day to be a Florida State Seminole. Please welcome Willie Taggart.
Really excited to be your head football coach, excited to get with our team and make the progress that we're gonna make this off season. We start our morning workouts here in about a week, so it's gonna be really nice to get with the guys and get to coach them up a little bit. But I appreciate every single one of you. Looking forward to making you all proud. Get you a good night rest of sleep and get ready for signing day tomorrow to see the next great Noles coming into our program. Thank you very much, and go Noles.
I keep saying every time I come to one of these, it's the best one we've ever had. I have to believe that today's probably one of the best ones we've ever had. We showcased our students, our faculty, our programs. Florida legislature turned out to support FSU Day, and then to have Coach Taggart here also to greet everybody was a special day, very special. To talk to the Florida legislature about the great things that are going on at Florida State, to talk about the 50,000 students that we had apply for our next class, freshman class. Those are very positive things that the Florida legislature has had a lot to do with in terms of support they've given us and the other universities. So it's a very positive day for us. Honored to showcase it, and we had a gorgeous day, as you can tell, for FSU Day.
The Florida State University library system is taking on a key role in both the state and the country thanks to a special designation that opens the state's libraries up to a nationwide audience. Florida State will now serve as the state hub for the Digital Public Library of America.
The Digital Public Library of America is a relatively new concept in the United States. It sort of serves as our first digital national library. In the U.S., as opposed to some places around the world, while we have the Library of Congress, we don't have any full central library that collects all material from all over the country. So the Digital Public Library of America has come together to work with communities and organizations throughout the United States to bring cultural heritage to a digital environment so that students, community members, people all over the country can search on topics and find unique primary source materials, photographs, yearbooks, that kind of thing, and be able to search in a central portal as opposed to having to go to hundreds of different sites to find that information. Florida State University Libraries is taking a lead in that. We're providing infrastructure, staffing, support to get the Sunshine State Digital Network up and running, to do education throughout the state, to help advise organizations on how to digitize material in a way that will allow it to be fed into, or connected to, I should say, the Digital Public Library of America. It's really exciting to me, and it's amazing for Florida State University to take a lead in that. Not all states in the country have a service hub for Digital Public Library of America yet. So we are in the forefront of working with the DPLA, and I think the possibilities are endless, and I'm excited to see what comes of it, what students create from what they're able to find, and what we're able to make available to the public.
And McCormick says the efforts aren't just for universities or public libraries, but for archives, museums, and small historical societies throughout the state.
It wasn't Valentine's Day, but Florida State University's most distinguished faculty pianist recently offered a rare treat to music lovers with a special inaugural performance as part of the college's annual Afternoon of Musical Delight concert.
That's right, Seshmi. It was a very special day as the Florida State College of Music welcomed 2 new additions to the family. Center stage at Ruby Diamond Concert Hall, 2 new Steinway Model D grand pianos, considered to be the finest in the world. The Steinway grand pianos will be used in the university's 2 largest concert halls, Ruby Diamond and Opperman Music Hall. Selecting the right instruments for Florida State's nationally renowned music program and world-class concert hall was a lengthy but important process, as the pianos will serve Florida State for many years.
This was an opportunity to get a wonderful piano, and the dean decided to choose pianos from Hamburg Steinway. Of course, there are Steinways in New York as well, but I'm particularly fond of the Hamburg Steinway, and I think other people are too.
The inaugural performance was followed up later in the month with Professor Hobson performing as the soloist alongside the university's symphony orchestra. The Model D concert grand piano weighs 1,000 pounds and spans 9 feet in length. It will be used in one of the university's premier academic programs, the College of Music's Piano Technology program. There, students learn to prepare, tune, and maintain the university's inventory of pianos. Dennis, I thought that was really cool. I think you don't think about how much goes into keeping the pianos. We just, see them out there on stage, but that was really interesting.
They are very delicate, but obviously high-performing instruments, and it does take a lot of effort to take care of them.
Yeah, absolutely does. All right, still to come on FSU Headlines, men's and women's hoops are looking to secure their spot in the tough ACC standings.
We'll let you know how both teams are doing, and we'll preview some of FSU's spring sports teams when FSU Headlines continues in a moment. Welcome back to FSU Headlines. It's hard to believe, but the winter athletics season is quickly approaching the end of the regular season.
Dennis, you're right, and that means two things. Some teams are prepping for the stretch run into postseason play, and spring sports teams are gearing up to start their seasons. FSU Headlines reporter Mark Vaughn has a handle on all the action and joins us now to fill us in. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Seshmi and Dennis. Well, it's been an exciting season for both the men's and women's basketball teams so far, but they're looking for some win streaks heading into postseason play in the ACC. On the men's side, a big home win against rival Miami led the Noles into a split with Wake Forest and Louisville. The win at Louisville giving the team a much-needed ACC road win late in the season. What the Noles do from here on out will determine seeding in March's ACC tournament up in Brooklyn, New York. And of course, the Noles want a higher seed in a possible early game bye. Noles playing well at home, looking for some more success on the road, with some consistency on the road in games against NC State and Clemson, those coming down the stretch in February. On the women's side of things, and an outstanding start to the season gave way to a few hiccups down the stretch in the ACC regular season for the Noles, but a big win on the road at Pitt put the Noles back on track for the stretch run. Florida State sitting in the middle of the pack in the ACC standings, you could say in 5th place, with a few losses, but still in the hunt for a good seed in March's ACC tournament. That tournament in Greensboro, North Carolina. Coach Simrau and the crew still have some big ACC games left against Duke and, of course, the rival Miami Hurricanes before February is up. And now let's go to baseball and the start of the season, as many Noles fans will be looking to multi-talented star Tyler Holton to lead a very talented baseball team this season. Reporter Sofia Hernandez has that story.
It can take you to places you've never seen. It can take you to heights and positions that you never thought you could dream of.
This is my sport, this is what I love to do, and I want to try and be the best baseball player that I can be.
Since his high school days in Tallahassee, Tyler Holton has been a force to be reckoned with. Ending his senior season with a batting average of .338, 64 strikeouts, and an ERA of .74, it's no wonder Florida State recruited this jack-of-all-trades.
The one thing that Tyler has always brought to the table is a calmness. No matter how big the situation, how light the situation, there's garnet and gold that runs through his blood. And that competitor, it's boiling inside, you just don't see it. He's always been able to take every situation and handle it.
Change up, strike 3 call. That's a new career high.
As a player who has performed in the outfield, at the plate, and most notably on the pitcher's mound, Holton has led the team in victories, earning him a spot among the best Seminole pitchers. With 144 strikeouts in 119.1 innings of work, he recorded the second most strikeouts in the ACC and the 6th most in FSU single-season history. Holton, the first ever Seminole to have won at least 5 ACC Pitcher of the Week honors in one season, looks forward to returning to the Hill in the spring.
I don't play for the awards, I just play. I love the game, and awards come along with sports. It's definitely an honor to see myself next to those names is incredible to me because, I mean, I've been a lifelong Florida State fan, and to see those names and I hear those names and I'm like, wow, that guy's like, he's a Florida State legend. To even think of myself in that category doesn't seem realistic to me.
And with continued humility and hard work throughout last season, Holton received All-ACC first-team honors and helped lead the Noles back to Omaha. This season, like every season, the team's ultimate goal remains the same.
We're definitely going to be a different team. I think we have more weapons, more experience, and we're out there more hungry than last year to win a national championship.
No stranger to winning titles, Holton and fellow FSU pitcher Cole Sands have been playing the sport together since the age of 9, when they were on the same national title-winning All-Star team.
He's a good competitor and a good friend of mine throughout our careers. We've been pretty close. He's a hard worker. He's always loved baseball, so I think he has a bright future ahead of him.
I think we're very fortunate to have not only two great competitors in Cole Sands and Tyler Holton, two Tallahassee natives that have competed together at an early age. I think there's always going to be a great internal competition, more importantly, a great respect for each other, and more importantly, great teammates too.
Even though Holton was selected in the 35th round of the 2017 Major League Draft by the Miami Marlins, his high hopes for the Seminoles' future led him to remain in Tallahassee.
It's just baseball to me. I mean, it's always been baseball. I'm just going to do what I do and not worry about the future because it's already got a plan for me. I'm just here to do what I can for the team and give it all I have.
As the 2018 season approaches, Tyler Holton is ready to take the mound with a powerful left-handed changeup in his familiar position in the starting rotation. Already named a preseason All-American, Holton is ready to make his mark and help lead his team to victory.
All right, that's going to do it for sports. But remember, you can keep up with all things Seminole athletics by visiting Seminoles.com. Back to you.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of FSU Headlines.
But you can keep up with FSU News anytime on Florida State's official website, news.fsu.edu.
For Seshmi, our crew, and everyone here at Florida State University, I'm Dennis Schnitker. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.